So we're out at chip tuning this morning. We're finally going to get around to fitting this bigger limiter so we can utilise the power that the chip's got in higher tunes. So first job, the intercooler's coming off.
So that's the rail on the V8 on the passenger side. At the front of the passenger side rail is the limiter that sits under there. So that's what it would be looking like inside the rail. So we're basically going to take the banjo bolt off of that, move the return pipe, and then pull that out and replace it with the high spec limiter.
Okay, so we're on the limiter now, so to speak. There we go, crack.
It will be tight, I guarantee you. And the fuel spec limiter that has to go in also has to be just as tight.
Yeah.
So once you've removed the breather pipe, this black pipe here is just a breather hose. That can be disconnected. There's no coolant or fuel in there. You just need to rip it out of the way. So it's out of the way. If you wish to also move the bracket that holds the cable in, that's fine as well. Now that usually has a nut on there, and that gets in the way. That'll stop your spanner from grabbing onto the actual original fuel limiter, so I just usually undo the nut, and it gives you a little bit of movement on there, just enough to get the spanner in over the actual limiter. So once you remove that out of the way, you got a little bit of movement, you can get your spanner up, crack it. It will be difficult to crack,
as we saw
on the first one, and once you got it released, comes out. That's your fuel limiter. Now, this is your high spec fuel limiter. This is what you're going to be putting in. As you can see, it looks exactly the same. Same ports, same inside. The seal, everything's designed so it bolts directly into there. Now, once you removed it, same thing again. You just literally put it in. Now, before putting it in, I'm going to put either, you can use a thread locker or a liquid sealant, just so it just helps keep the thread sealed. You don't have to, but it's usually advised because you want to make sure it is 100% sealed on these ones. Alright, so I use the liquid Teflon. I try not to use tape just because it does give you a little bit more grief. Either similar to this, or you can use Loctite. It doesn't matter which one you use. I usually use I prefer to use a Teflon because it doesn't lock it in. So you don't need much, just a smidgen. I usually put a line on. Alright, again, I usually put 4 dabs, so if you just get it, you don't have to, but I just put one at each corner, so you definitely know the thread sealer will be 100% around. And then just put it in. Okay, so once it's made, that's it. Now we have to physically pull on it. This is where you do need a leverage. So a standard spanner is not necessarily sufficient. Yeah. Alright, so when we go to tighten up, minimum suggestion of a ring spanner is it needs to be about 180 Newton meters, which is bloody tight. Alright, so once you've installed the high spec fuel limiter, now we're just putting the return line in and the banjo ball. Now this, when removed, you'll find this actually has a connected twin washer. That can stay on there, try not to lose it. But when putting this one back in, it does not have to be tight because there is no longer fuel coming out of this system anymore, so you will not have leaks coming out of that. It will still have fuel in there, but it doesn't have to be tight. As I said, you know, if you tighten it too much, like when, you know, you literally just need a 14mm ring spanner, just tighten it as much as you kind of feel that it's comfortable, and that's it.
And when you say that there's no fuel coming back through that anymore, and that's where we were throwing the codes before,
exactly.
Isn't it?
So what happens with the fuel limiters is they'll reach a certain level. So when you start to bump the fuel rail pressure up, this is a mechanical. The original fuel limiters are a mechanical designed bleed off. So when it reaches a certain fuel pressure, it's like a safety function. You don't need them, nor, well, in this case, as soon as you start doing any sort of pressure rise in your rail, this is your first flaw. So as soon as you got rid of that, your suction control valve will always bleed off. That's what it's designed for. That is your primary bleed off when it needs to return the excess fuel. This is just you could say a safety precaution, but in this case it's a keep it stock precaution. So once you've put that in there, you now no longer have a bleed off in the system, which means you can bump your rail pressure up and it will maintain the rail pressure as required for the performance tuning fitting.
And that's where we're going to see in the next two clips. I'm going to show you the two hills where you see me in second gear low range. I'm on the gas, it gets to a certain rev, it leaks through there and throws codes, and you won't get that so much on the road. I think I've thrown that code a few times, you know, taken off racing other cars, but in low range is where it's been hurting me. And that was on Rob's tune number 7 from memory. Okay, so we're all done sort of under the intercooler now, so the intercooler is going to go back on.
It's quite a simple procedure.
Even a carpenter can do this one.
Yeah, this is
Music to my ears.
That sounds awesome.
That's music to my ears. Okay, no leaks. So the beast now will be able to use the higher tunes that Rob set in the chip. So with the fuel limiter in, we can now confidently run tunes 7 up to 9, knowing we can push the car and the revs without getting that fault code. Thanks a lot, Rob, from Chip Tuning.